Happy Memorial Day, Haley.
Happy Memorial Day.
Did you have fun?
I did. I was hanging out in the sun. It was so nice. What did you do?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of grilling. So
Oh,
I love that my husband's not a big cook, but he loves to grill and I love to let him grill. So I'm always down for some Memorial Day grilling. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about how rest brings healing.
Mm, yeah, I love this topic because I am a chronic perfectionist,
Mm,
overachiever, recovering perfectionist, recovering overachiever. I am somebody who will often push myself beyond my bodily limits. And I
mm,
just remember I had a moment in Denver. I was writing my book, It's Not Your Turn. I was teaching 4 classes. We had just moved across the country. I had my 3 kids. We were all living in a duplex that they gave us on campus housing, which was such a blessing. But I was in this new place and just so overwhelmed with
mm.
stress and all these deadlines and projects. And I remember I was sitting down to finish a chapter in the book one night and the screen went blurry. Like from my vision, I couldn't see the screen I had been
Oh,
typing on.
yeah.
And so I closed my eyes and then opened them again and tried to keep writing, but I couldn't see the screen. And so I decided, okay, I'm just going to go get in bed. And Seth was already in bed. It was pretty late. And I remember him asking me something and I couldn't answer him. Like, it was so weird. I knew the words I wanted to say, but I couldn't get my mouth to connect to my brain and say them. And I'm saying
Mm,
he was asking me, like, what's your youngest son's name? And I knew it in my head, but I couldn't get my mouth to say it. And so it really freaked me out. Ended
yeah.
up going to the hospital. Turned out it was not a stroke, thank God. It's called a migraine with aura, which is something you can get when you have acute stress. And
Wow.
so I would start having those. Anytime I got super stressed with a ton of deadlines, if I didn't give myself time to rest, I would have this thing. And one time I remember I was driving and I had to pull over on the side of the road because everything goes blurry in your vision and
Wow.
the part of your brain that controls the language processing doesn't work effectively. So anyway, very scary. And I remember having a conversation with my mentor in this season and he said to me, Heather, you'll get there quicker if you slow
Mm,
down.
yeah. Yeah, I remember there was a time in college when I pushed myself way too hard. My schedule was packed. I had classes Monday through Thursday, and then I went to work right after class on Thursday, and then all day Friday and Saturday, and then I served at church on Sunday.
Yep.
And I didn't have a single day off. And
Yep.
I actually went on like that for like 2 years. It was
Mhm.
crazy, and then I reached a point of total burnout, and that was when I truly came to understand the value of rest.
Yeah. It's I don't think people understand until your body actually stops
Yeah.
working the way my sister has gotten pseudo seizures.
Oh,
That then
wow.
and I remember we had to take her to she went to a ton of different, hospitals, ended up going to Mayo Clinic. Anyway, it was acute stress. So,
Wow.
I just think
Yeah.
in our culture where, I don't know, at some points in my life, I almost valued I felt more valuable if my calendar was full, or I felt more
Mm,
important if I was flying around, and I just don't feel that way anymore, and I think it's because of these experiences that I've had that I see, oh,
yeah.
this really affects your health. And my mentor said to me one day, he was talking about pastors because that was the world he came from. But he was like, man, I just know so many really gifted, incredible, anointed pastors who die of a
Hmm.
heart attack in their 40s or in their 50s
Yeah.
because they just keep that level of go, 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 go. And he's like, at the end of the day, Heather, everyone's just going to say, wow, that's sad, right? Except your
Mm,
family
yeah.
or very, very close friends. All these people that you've served in ministry are going to sit down after church and say, wow, that's so sad. Did you hear? And then they're going to move
Mm,
on.
yeah.
And so I just, in my own life, and maybe this is, I don't know if this is being a woman too, but I just want to be at my kids' track practices. I want to really be involved in my kids' lives. I wanna do ministry, but not at the expense of my family.
Yeah.
And so I've become pretty I mean, I'm excited because we're gonna have Becky on.
Mhm.
Becky
Yeah.
Thompson, my long lost sister. We're actually not related friends, but we did talk for a second trying to figure out if we were related. I'm excited to have her on. But I am passionate about this topic because I know how much it has served me in my own life to slow down. You will get there quicker if you slow down. How do we connect with a God of like beauty and stillness and patience when we're running all the time trying to produce? I just think we really need to put things into perspectives, a lot of us in our lives, and let ourselves not like build rest into your calendar. We had Vimbo on
Yeah.
once, and I just remember Vimbo, she was the first person to make this point to me. Actually, she does seminars on burnout. If anyone's interested, you can find her website, Vimbo. But she said to me one time, like, build into your calendar as if it's an appointment,
Hmm.
a meeting with yourself or a time to go journal or time to go on a walk. She was like, that way, when people are asking you, can I meet with you at this time? If you look at your calendar and you see it's full, you will say no. But if you don't
Mhm.
have it in your calendar, my personality will be like, okay, well, I wanted to rest, but let me just
Yeah.
take one more appointment.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. Before we get into submissions, though, I wanted to see if we got any submissions. Did we get anything to the group chat? Remember, if you have a friendship or romantic dilemma or family dilemma you want perspective on, or just feel like sharing, putting it out there, send it to the group chat. You can email Haley at whatifimwrongpod@gmail.com. We have a submission. I thought you said it was about friendship, right?
Yes. Yes, it is about friendship.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's enter the group chat.
I, 35 female, am longtime friends with a marriage couple, 40 male and 42 female. I've been distant since their daughter was born, and they just confronted me about it an hour ago. Here's my dilemma. I lost a child when I was 18. She was born alive but survived only a few hours. I chose a name for her that I confided in these friends. That was very special to me. The name is a play on family names that I made up. I have never known anyone else with this name.
Hmm.
Well, these friends used the name I made up for my daughter that I lost when I was 18 for their daughter.
Hmm.
I would maybe have had no issue with this if they had warned me, but I found out in the Facebook announcement.
Hmm.
This brought back some very painful and traumatic memories. I didn't say anything, I don't own the name, but I felt very disrespected that
Yeah.
they chose not to even give me a heads up, especially as many in our friend circle know where they got it, and I was put on the spot when people texted asking how I felt about it.
Hmm.
So I just distanced myself from them. I didn't say anything about it. Well, about an hour ago, I got a message from the guy that was very angrily worded. Apparently, he had been talking to a mutual friend about me and how I've shown no interest in their daughter being born. And my other friend mentioned that using the name without a heads up was very painful to me. He called me selfish and accused me of trying to sully their joy with my pain
Hmm.
and making everything about me, that I should just get over it. She passed years ago.
Wow.
In my opinion, losing a child is something you never truly get over. And I was never rude. I never spoke badly of them or to them. I've just chosen to protect myself and remain distant. I wanted them to enjoy their daughter. They struggled with infertility for years, and I'm happy for them. It's just painful for me, and I felt very disrespected with how they handled it. Am I wrong? Was I wrong to create distance in a 20-year friendship over this, or was my reaction reasonable? To clarify, they used both the first and middle name down to the spelling.
Hmm.
The only difference is the last name. The name is a name I had made up as it is a mix of my mom and grandpa's names, and the middle name was my nickname from them as a kid. My mom passed when I was a child, and my grandpa, who raised me after
Wow.
mom passed 3 months before my daughter did. Am I
Hmm.
wrong for not wanting to be close with them?
Wow. Wow. A couple things that stood out to me in this is, well, one, I just think it's interesting how we text people very important conversations.
Hmm, yeah.
I just don't understand this need. if you have a very important thing to say to somebody, my personal, and this is, I'm talking about as a communication professor, my personal opinion. If you have a heavy conversation, I'm saying the guy who, for whatever reason, was upset, feeling like she had ignored their daughter. I think
Yeah.
that's you either, if possible, pick up the phone, right? And have a voice conversation. By the way, the human brain is wired to elicit positive emotions when we listen to each other's voices. So that's why
Mhm.
I'm saying, even if it's a crucial conversation, to do that by phone is really good. And of course, the best option is to sit down and talk to people face to face.
Yeah.
So sending these long text messages, I worry about a culture that did we talk about this on here before? I've said this to my students, but I worry about a generation being raised that has never heard anyone apologize to their face.
I don't think you've said that on here before.
I think about that.
Yeah.
Or a generation that has never had to apologize to someone's face.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to type it in this text,
Yep.
and there's so much value in sitting down and looking each other in the eyes and saying, I'm sorry, right? I'm going to take accountability for what I did. I don't know. I struggle with that. The other thing is so to answer the question, I do not think she's wrong. And here's one of a big reason why, not just using the name, but I just don't know a friend that would say, your daughter passed years ago, get over it.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good friend to me. Or
Right.
at the least, like they lack severe emotional intelligence and maturity, where I would think that that there's going to be other issues in the
Yeah.
friendship. And
Yeah.
it is, I mean, I think we can all agree it's very weird. I don't
Yeah.
think, like, if the name was Jane, you know what I mean? And I can see how maybe somebody
Yeah.
forgot, and so, oh, that could be a misunderstanding. But when it's a
Yeah.
name that she made up, that's her
Yes.
grandpa's name and her mom's name,
Yeah. Very
and then
specific.
her nickname as the middle name, that is
Yeah.
just so interesting that somebody would take that and not tell you. Or like, "Hey, we absolutely love this name. This is uncomfortable. How would you feel?" I mean, I just can't believe to say
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's like clearly sounds like a very unique name that you wouldn't just like they knew that it was her name.
Right.
So clearly that they knew and they weren't communicating. But I also think you're not wrong. Also, I think she's like allowing them to let them enjoy time as a family.
Right.
And then if she wants to talk about it later, once they have some time to like enjoy time with their daughter, then she can bring it up. But I think it sounds like she was just giving them some space to enjoy this like newborn bliss, and then yeah, you can talk about it later. But yeah, honestly, I think it's just so sad that
It is.
yeah,
And
it's so sad.
Haley knows I got some bad news before we jumped on this call, so I'm already
Yeah.
sad. But I
Yeah.
feel I even just listening to this, I'm already very tender in my own life because of things. But so listening to this just reminds me of, like, man, sometimes life is so hard already, and it doesn't, like, the choices we make or the people that we're in relationship with can really exhaust us. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whatever little we have that our little fingertips are trying to just hang on, I'm trying to hang on and keep going. And then
Yeah.
somebody just steps on your fingertips.
Yeah.
Can we just be
Totally.
kind? This is all
Yeah.
I want to say in the group chat today. Can we just be kind to one another? Great day as Christians to follow the advice of Jesus, right? Treating others with love,
Mhm.
even our enemies. Like, how do we live this thing out and stop just needlessly hurting one another? Communicate with one another. So, also, I'll say this before we end the group chat: before you send the text, can you pick up the phone?
Mm. Yeah.
Can you have a conversation? If you want to send us your submission for group chat, you can do that by sending it to Haley at whatifimwrongpod@gmail.com. Okay, before we get to submissions and we bring Becky on, let's define the term. Remember, for this segment, I'm going to tell you a word and its actual definition. And I want you to ask yourself how knowing the actual definition may change how you see your relationship with that word. Today's word is rest. According to the Oxford Dictionary, rest is defined as ceasing work or movement in order to relax, sleep, or recover strength. I want to focus with you on that last part, recover strength, because it isn't just about your body. It's about your mind, your spirit, your creativity. Rest isn't laziness. It's an intentional reclaiming of your energy. It's a way of telling yourself you matter, even when you are not producing. And here's what I want you to really sit with. Rest isn't what you earn after healing. It's one of the ways healing begins. So stop pushing through exhaustion. Instead, I want you to ask yourself, what might I recover if I choose rest instead? According to the Oxford Dictionary, you will recover your strength, but maybe also clarity, peace, or even a part of yourself you forgot was tired. I am so excited for you to hear more on this topic. I really believe in this conversation that we're having today. I want to introduce you to Becky Thompson, who will join us for submission questions. And I hope you will all decide that rest is actually how we gain strength.
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. And I think we don't operate at full capacity without rest. And we often overlook that. Instead of slowing down, we push ourselves through exhaustion, thinking that we're being productive. But the truth
Yeah,
is, we could be functioning more effectively and even accomplishing more if we allowed ourselves the space to just rest properly.
you will get there quicker if you
Mm,
slow down. Let's
yeah.
bring on Becky. I am super excited about this topic in general. Obviously, to have Becky on, Becky Thompson, she's the author of Healing Rest. This book came out in April, and I just think it's so relevant in a culture that literally never stops. You know what I mean? Like to even take time for yourself. I just feel like in American culture, it's like, oh, you're grind it out. You're being lazy. Keep if you want it, keep pushing. I just saw a news thing. What's the lady's name that runs Skims? Do you know what I'm talking about, Becky? What's that lady's name?
No, I'm just thinking. I don't
Haley, can
know.
you
I
Google
can
it?
search it.
Yeah.
Google it for us, Haley. Okay, the girl who runs Skims, she just did an interview and she got a ton of blowback for it, um, saying like your ability to have free time or whatever, that's not your employer's responsibility. Like this is just hustle culture. If you want to make a business, you can't rest. Essentially, it's a nonstop grind. So yeah, that I just think we're in this
Yeah.
paradox for people. And so I'm so excited to hear from you, Becky, because I know how much my life has changed this year in spending time like going on a walk and listening to the birds. It has really changed me spiritually. I think I'm the healthiest I've ever been. So, okay, I found it. It's the Skims co founder, CEO, Emma Grede. Grede. And so, anyway, we'll put it in the show notes that work life balance that she talks about, and it got a ton of pushback. But just curious, Becky, how did you come into this understanding of the importance of healing rest?
Yeah. So, mom of three kids,
Mm,
um, lifelong generalized anxiety disorder,
okay.
messed up
Mm,
nervous system,
Mm,
parenting through pandemic. Like
mm,
that's where I'm at. That's where I've been. Leading a movement of women out of what I call the forest of fear.
mm,
The Lord gave me this really cool vision in like 2018, 2019 of a woman. She looked like she had been dropped off in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm standing at my kitchen sink. We were living in Los Angeles at the time. I live in Oklahoma now, but we were living in Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, the Lord drops this picture into my heart. And she just looked like a regular lady, but she was blindfolded and she was in a dark forest and it was night. And she lifts the blindfold. She looks in all directions. There's no light, no clear way to move forward. And she calls out, hello. and she calls it out again, and no one comes for her.
Hmm.
And it was such an emotional encounter with the Lord, and tears are pouring down my face, and I'm like, who is this? What did you show me a picture of? Why? And the Lord says, she's a woman, she's lost in the forest of fear, and you're going back in so we can lead her out together. And I
Hmm.
had been moving through a really hard season, Heather, and it was just so purposeful, that season of writing down like how the Lord was bringing healing into my life. All of the usual praying, reading my Bible, doing the worship music, like seeking trusted counselors and doctors and all those things. It just, none of it was enough. None of it was bringing the breakthrough that I needed. But the Lord in that season began to like download. It was like a map, and it was a daily thing where, I was really faithful to what is this process. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of us are always in process, but we're not faithful to document, pay attention to it. We just wake up one day and things are either better or worse,
Hmm.
but we're not always paying attention to the steps of the process. So I paid attention to the steps of the process, made it to what I felt like was a clearing in my life. Trees not as dark, daily overwhelm not as much, but I was still like, okay, how do I live here? How do I find healing after everything that I've been through? And that book, the first one there, called Peace, Hope and Healing for the Anxious Mama's Heart, released in 2020.
Hmm. Wow, such good timing. Such
I
good
know
timing
the
on
Lord
that
and his
one. Yeah.
timing. I love the Lord and how he works like that. So, yeah, long story short, I was coming out of a season of exhaustion, overwhelm, anxiety, and leading women in that same space, but we're not very good at resting. And I think some of the most healing work happens in rest, obviously, like physically for our
Yeah.
bodies. It's really hard to heal what you won't rest. And so the Lord took me on this next part of this journey with him. And that's where the heart of healing rest has come from. How do we find rest when we can't even find a pause in our day?
Yeah.
And the Lord just sort of shifting my understanding of what rest is and how we can find it. So that's me. That's where I came into this thing.
What has been some of the feedback that you've gotten from people on the book?
Yeah. So, women, moms especially, but women in general, this is the message that I'm bringing as I travel and speak in this season. And what I'm hearing from women across the country is that they're exhausted.
Yeah.
They're exhausted from the pace of life. They're exhausted from the mental load. They're exhausted from the weight of their own expectations and how life is turning out. They're exhausted trying to keep up with their mental health. They're exhausted from outside pressures, internal pressures. And what I am hearing women say as this message of healing rest comes is, I didn't know it was that simple. Like I didn't know I really had access to what you're telling me I have access to.
Hmm.
That's been some of the most powerful feedback, I think.
Yeah. I just want to say, just talking to you, I believe you. Like, as I'm looking at you and having this conversation, I am sensing somebody who has lived what she is now sharing. And I just want the listeners to know that. I highly recommend that you pick up this book, Healing Rest, Becky Thompson. Haley, we have some submissions.
Yes.
We aren't the only ones, right? Overwhelmed and
Yeah.
looking for
Oh,
rest.
yeah.
People had some submissions. Read the first one to us.
Okay. How do you know when you need rest? What are the signs? How do you know that you're not just being lazy?
To you, Becky.
Yeah, I'll take that one for sure. I don't know who told you that you had to earn rest.
Wow.
Hmm.
I don't know what lie you believed, that you were only worthy of rest when the work was done, because your work
Hmm.
will never be done.
Yep.
And I feel like there's this lie just extended by the enemy of our hearts, who's like, just one more minute, just one more thing, just check that off the list, just accomplish this. Who told you you could sit down? And it's just bait to keep us in a grind that we weren't created for.
Yeah.
Tending gardens is beautiful work. And that's what we were made to do. We were
Mm-hmm.
made to be tenders of the earth and students of the presence of God.
Yep.
And instead, we're just always running, always racing, always trying to earn what Jesus already paid for with his blood,
Mm-hmm.
which is the rest that is available for our souls as we come back into relationship with the Lord. And so I think for a lot of us, our physical rest, like feeling like we can pause, feeling like we've earned the right, to just sit down and numb out and do those things, is tied to our soul health.
Yeah.
And if our soul is always searching, if our soul is always struggling, if our soul always feels like we have to earn, then we'll never just give ourselves the gift of physical rest, because we'll always internally feel restless.
Mhm.
And so getting those spiritual principles sort of lined up in our hearts and getting that right sets us in the right mindset to sit down without that lie that's like, man, there's so much more you should be doing, when axes need to be sharpened so that when we go back to the work, we can be effective. And we
Yeah.
sharpen our axe through rest. Okay, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, no, and I just want to add to the person listening that I really think this is required understanding. It- some of the worst choices I have ever made in my life were when I was running, running, running.
Mhm.
Mm,
And I tell leaders in particular, but we're all leaders in whatever sphere. If your input from the spirit is not more than what you're putting out, you're giving people yourself.
Mhm.
mm,
And that's not what we're called to do. We're called to give what God is revealing and doing in our lives. And so if we are not slowing down to allow God and the Spirit to do that work in us, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care
yeah.
who you see running
Yeah.
around, speaking, teaching, leading. It's like you're just giving people yourself. And I do think
Yeah.
that's some of the brokenness in our world and in Christianity today, is this lack of rest. People are not. I don't know how often you hear this, Becky. Do you hear this a lot, where people are like, "Oh, I just don't have time."
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, we need to
Yeah.
slow
Mhm.
down to even hear what God is saying in our own hearts.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think you're exactly right. But this is age old. Like, this is Mary
Mhm.
and Martha. This
Yes.
is Martha being concerned about many things. Martha is, Jesus goes to the home of Mary and Martha, and there's people sitting and listening and learning, and there is work to be done.
Yep.
I mean, there's real work that needed to be done. Martha is the one that served while Mary sits at Jesus's feet for the listener that needs the refresh. And Martha comes in and she doesn't say, Jesus, will you ask Mary to get up and help me? She says, Jesus, tell her to get up and help me. She tells Jesus what to do. And I'm like that in my own life. I'm like that. My prayers are like, make my family see this. Like, I've been Martha though. Like, when I picture her, I see her on the brink of tears. I see her like feeling the same way I do when I walk into the kitchen, the trash can's overflowing, and I whip open the cabinet door, I get out that trash bag, and I shake it so loud the roof comes off, like, doesn't anybody else see this mess?
Yeah.
Shake, shake, shake. And it wasn't that Martha was, doing things that were frivolous. It wasn't like she's like, don't you see these curtains are dusty? She was serving her family. Like, she was serving her guests. She was serving the Lord, and it was good work. And so I think for those that are like, I don't have time to rest, they are filling their schedules with mostly very good things.
Yeah.
It's not like they're filling it with only junk. It's not like they're filling with only what they would think is like being lazy or unproductive. They're filling it with family. They're filling it with service. They're filling it with their job and their obligations and their community and their churches. But they've done these things at the expense of the most important thing.
Right.
So one of my favorite Bible teachers, Tozer, said this in his book, The Purpose of Man. He says, the average Christian's life is cluttered with all sorts of activities. We have more going on than we can keep up with and still maintain our inner life with God. We find ourselves rushing through the devotional aspects of our life to give predominance to mere activities.
Yep.
And that's where I think a lot of us are.
Yep.
We are so full of things, but they're not just activities. Like, these are things that matter to us, like Martha serving the Lord. These are things that matter to us, like us serving our families. But we've done it at the expense of the moments with the Lord. So what I talk about in Healing Rest is how the Lord can come and meet us even as we go. Like,
Yep.
he goes with us. We don't just have the still quiet. Like, we have the constant presence, indwelling presence. And so if we can get that shift, then even before we can pause, we can learn to listen for the Lord and then make room for what we understand. Oh yeah, that's what I've been needing.
Yeah, I'm telling you, as this became a non-negotiable for me in my life, it changed the way I showed up to activities. I'm telling you guys, even I've told Haley this, even wiping my counters,
Yeah.
when I have taken time to slow down and hear God, I'm always looking for him, right? I'm telling my brain now, look for, where do you see God? How do you keep growing in your daily walk? So that even when I'm wiping my counters, I'm like, hey, be present in this.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to show up and do things I don't really want to do, right? But there's something for me in not skipping this step that I think we only can recognize when we're resting. And so that's why I just want to say, I want to push back a bit on people who are like, I don't have time. I am telling you, this is the healing that the world needs, is for Christians to make the time to slow down and like, your husband deserves a wife who has spent time with God before she spends time with him. Your kids, or I always felt like as a teacher, my students, they deserve a teacher who has taken the time to slow down and spend time with God before I step foot in that classroom. Because else, I'm telling you, in my experience, I'm just giving them more of me. And the world doesn't need more of me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one more, Haley. I'm
Okay.
fired up. I'm fired up, y'all.
I love it.
All right, here we go. What are some restful rhythms I can incorporate into my life on a daily basis while still making sure I'm productive?
Oh, that's good. Can I take that one?
No,
Can
these
I
are all to
answer
you,
them?
Becky. I'm not an
Oh!
expert in this area. This is all to you, girl.
No. And see, that's the thing. I'm not an expert in rhythm, and I'm okay with saying that. Like, each one, I have so much grace for where my life that's so outside of my control. Man, there are 5 of us in my family, and all of us are a little bit spicy. That's just the way we are. Our brains are a little bit spicy, and I don't mind sharing that either. And so I have to have grace for each day being each day. And the rhythm that I incorporate can't be, okay, in the morning or at night, it's always this way, because I can't control that in my house. I can't control that in my schedule. And I know there have to be other listeners other than the one that just asked this question that are feeling the exact same way. Like, it's so hard. And I hear the heart of that question, which is, how do I do this?
Yes.
It feels impossible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do and I'll do it. I've got my notepad out. I've got my pen in my hand. I'll write it down. I'll put it in my calendar. Just tell me what to do to have rest. And what I really hear the Lord inviting us into, and Heather, you've already shared this, but what I hear the Lord inviting us into, and it's really the message of the book, is to let the Lord come, bring the rhythm of his presence into every single part of the day. It can't just be morning. It can't just be night. Our families do need us to have those moments, but I can't make a dentist appointment for you. Like, I can't show up at your house and tell you what to make for dinner for your family. I can't come and create the space that only this Holy Spirit can come in and make that space in your family, in your life. But I can tell you how to tune your heart to his voice and let him create the space and the rhythm with the rhythm of his presence. Like, this is what he does. What he does is hover and make waves that we can ride and we can follow, that we can rest in and ride on. I think about the Holy Spirit breathing over the surface of the waters in creation, and how he hovered over the surface of the waters at the beginning of the world. And that's his nearness over us. And he breathes over our day. And when we hold it so tight, with such a tight grasp, and we say, like, it has to turn out this way because this is the only source of peace I have, is in my control of how this turns out. Man, it all goes back to just this released invitation from the Lord to come and step up under what he's doing, to step up under his yoke, to take his yoke upon us. So, okay, how do I create the rhythm? I do this. If you want to, I know a lot of us are like, I just want to wake up tomorrow and have a plan so I can do it. I want to wake up tomorrow. I want to start fresh. If I'm going to start a diet, if I'm going to start an exercise routine, I'm not starting that thing at 3 p.m. I'm starting that thing fresh in the morning. So if you're waking up tomorrow and you're starting tomorrow fresh, creating rhythm. I want you to breathe in deep as you wake up and remember the Lord is as close as your breath.
Mm-hmm.
As you feel your shoulders up around your ears, or you're leaning into that driver, steering wheel in the car, or you're feeling that tight grip on anything you're holding in your hands, to just notice the posture of your body and notice the attention of your thoughts and notice the posture of your heart in relationship to the Lord, because he's in the room with you. So the rhythm looks like staying in step with him
Mm,
and not just inviting him to come and stay in step with you.
yeah, I love that. I'll say that everybody is so different, as far as what I'm like a I'm not I'm a teacher, I'm a student. I love to just sit down and read my Bible and have devotional time. My husband he wants to be out in nature, and that's how
Mm.
he may recharge his system. Who's right? Neither, right? Like whatever's
Mhm.
right for
Yeah.
you. So if music is how your body processes and recharges and accepts the presence of God, then maybe for you it's playing some songs in the morning. What does yours
Yeah.
look like, Haley? Just curious.
Yeah, I think for me, I was just thinking as you were talking about that, I think it changes. Like, I think it depends on the day. Sometimes it can be music, sometimes it's going out in nature, sometimes it's just like sitting and reading my Bible. But I think it changes like day to day what I feel like would recharge my soul, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like I feel like I need to it's just different. Sometimes I'm like, man, I really just need to go on a walk and that's going to feel really refreshing. And
Yeah.
then other days I'm like, I just need to sit on my couch and open up the word.
Yeah, and do and I will say this. This has been interesting to me. The closer I've gotten to God, the more I'll say this. I have felt the Lord say, like, it's okay to just be, to
Hmm.
just sit, because in
Mm,
my
Yeah.
brain,
yeah.
I gotta read. Because that's how
Mm,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? I gotta do my Bible reading. And I have had moments where God's like, it's okay. Just
Yeah.
be.
Hmm.
Drink your coffee, sit here with me. And that has kind of shocked me, because that's not how my brain works, and that's why I do believe it's God, because it's not how I would respond. I have to check the
Mhm.
box. And when
Yeah.
God invites me to just sit, what?
Yeah.
We're just going to sit together? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want people to be open to what the Spirit leads you to. Becky, Healing
Yeah.
Rest, it's been out. I invite everybody to check it out. We're going to have it in the show notes. Thank you so much. Where can people find you, Becky?
Yep. Easiest place to find me is BeckyThompson.com. That takes you to all of my socials and Healing Rest book and all of that. HealingRestBook.com. You can also grab the copy of the book there. Thank you so much for having me on. I so enjoyed our
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, and I hope people do pick up the book, because I really, again, I know I'm maybe beating a dead horse, but I just think so many of us are missing God right where we are in our
Yeah.
rush to perform or produce for Him.
Mm.
So may we start here. Healing Rest by Becky Thompson. You can find her at BeckyThompson.com. Thanks so much for coming. I want to close every episode with a segment I call Day in the Bible. And this is where I share something I have learned in Bible study with you that will beg the question, what if I'm wrong about how I've been reading or thinking or explaining this Bible passage? Today, we are going to look at the 10 commandments and the commandment on Sabbath, which is found in Exodus 28 through 1. First, let me just read it to you, and then let me point out something perhaps you hadn't thought about before. So here's the text. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Verse 9, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Verse 10, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Here is what I want you to notice from the very beginning. When God instructs his people on what rest is supposed to look like, he bases it on a system of equity and inclusion. Look at verse 10. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son, nor your daughter. Hold on, it's going to keep going. Nor your male or female servants, nor even your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. Becky talked about this earlier, but according to God, rest is not something that is earned. It is something that humanity enters into as a reflection of the covenant between God and humanity at creation in God's system. And by the way, as Christians, we are all tasked with bringing that heavenly system to earth. That is what we are supposed to be doing here. And that system is based on equity and inclusion. The stranger rests just like the resident citizen. And I just need you to understand this in the first century world at a time of deep hierarchy would be wild. I mean, there is no other
Mhm.
culture besides the Israelites that are doing something like this, that are saying the immigrant, the foreigner, the stranger, the slave, we are all going to rest beside those who are at the top of the pyramid.
Mm.
It's again, I love talking about this, but it's again the upside down kingdom. And just so people understand, when I say upside down kingdom, there is a pyramid of hierarchy, and at the top you have gods and demigods, and then you have the really wealthy people. No, then you have the kings and rulers, and then you have the really wealthy people, and then you have people that own slaves. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you had slaves, immigrants, foreigners, and the poor. And God, over and over, and you'll see this through Jesus's ministry, that's why they call it the upside down kingdom. He keeps flipping this pyramid of his cultural day and saying things like what we see here in Exodus, right? So we see the same God in the Old Testament as we see living out, as we see Jesus living out in the New Testament, where there's this idea that the rich can rest beside the poor. This is exactly what we see in the early church. When they're meeting in houses, the rich are meeting with slaves and they're worshiping together. The son and daughter rest beside the father and mother. This is rest that is not earned. It is a reminder of what through Christ, as a human being, you receive. That's it for today's episode. Join us next week. Haley, do we start a new theme next week?
Yes, so next week we are starting our month with a new series where we are meeting with different theologians and asking
Mm.
them what we could be getting wrong about God in the Bible. You can send me your submissions if you want us to discuss whatever experience you are questioning on the podcast. Email me at whatifimwrongpod@gmail.com.
If you have any questions about theology or about the Bible, send them to Haley. We want to talk about them this month. I'm Heather Thompson Day, and I'll see you next week.